Hi, I'm Laura. I'm the Fundraising Manager for Findacure. So I'm here with you today just to go through, as Phil just explained, fundraising through grants and foundations, and explain a little bit about what they are. So this session will focus on, what is a trust and foundation, a chance to look at what they are and how they will fund you. We're going to look at the different types of funding offered, so in terms of what parts of your charity or organisation they can support, where to look, so how you can find the funding that's relevant to you, eligibility, so how you can decide who will be most likely to fund you and what you need to consider before going ahead with an application, and how to communicate with funders, so how to develop relationships with them going forward. We're also going to cover thinking outside the box, so the kind of creativity you need to, or you can tap into when widening your search. And then at the end, we're going to look at some COVID-19 specific emergency funding that's out at the moment. So yeah, here we go. So what are trusts and foundations? I just saw from the polls that some of you have engaged with trusts and foundations, but it doesn't seem that a lot of people are getting funding from those areas, so I'll quickly run through who they are. So NCVO describes that as a general rule, grant-making trusts and foundations follow their own direction rather than being led by government. So they have a view on what they want to achieve and how that will benefit local communities. They don't deliver work on the ground, but they give grants to community groups and charities that do. So they applying to trusts and foundations is largely about demonstrating how your particular project can help them achieve their purpose. So trusts and foundations come in all shapes and sizes and give grants to a wide variety of causes. So some are focused on particular geographical areas, while others only give to certain types of organisations or a well-defined community. So others are also interested in working in particular areas of work or causes. So to summarise what they are, trusts and foundations are charities with private sustainable income. So in turn, trusts and foundations make grants to support individuals in other charitable organisations to achieve their goals. So the terms trust and foundation can be used interchangeably, but they largely do the same work. Their only difference lies in the constitution and legal status. So looking at the trusts that are out there, so you have family trusts. So those are started by family members and are set up to disperse personal family donations. So an example of this is the Sainsbury's Trust, for instance. Then you have company corporate trusts. So these donate money to charitable organisations from company profit. So they donate, the value of their giving goes a bit beyond just money. So they do gifts in kind, pro bono support. So it's always good to develop that relationship with a corporate, which I could see from the poll some of you are already doing. So volunteer hours, they build long-term partnerships with the charity, and examples of corporate foundations are like the Santander Foundation or the Asda Foundation, for instance. Then you have private trusts and foundations. So these generate funding from private income, usually raised through investments. So they donate interest to charitable organisations in the form of a grant. The Wolfson Foundation, for example, is an example of this, which is an independent trust whose money is raised through endowment. Then you had livery companies. So these were originally set up to protect the interests of particular trades. So some date back to medieval times. So some livery funds still provide grants and bursaries to organisations and individuals actively working within the same trade, but they might have widened their scope in recent years and provide grants to a variety of charitable organisations. So an example of an active livery company is the Cloth Workers Foundation. So while the majority of trusts get their income from their investments, there are a few exceptions that raise money from the public. So things like Comic Relief, and Children in Need raise millions of pounds annually from the public, which then goes out to fund good causes. Then you've got community foundations. So there's 46 accredited community foundations in the UK at the moment. They cover all Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and England, and most of England. They connect donors with local groups and develop endowment pots to award grants over longer periods of time. So at the last recordings were in 2015, The combined endowment was worth 500 million, so they're a very big pot. And they gave grants in 2014 to 15 of totaling 65 million. And then there's the National Lottery Community Fund. So they receive 40% of the total sums raised from National Lottery, and they distribute this through grant awards to support projects with a community focus. So since 2004, they've distributed 9.5 billion in awards. And they have funding programs that range between sort of £300 to £10,000 to larger grants to multi-million pound strategic programs for people. So yeah, they're an important one to know about. So what will trusts and foundations fund? So trusts provide a variety of different funding, including startup funding. So this is funding to get your project off the ground that couldn't launch without the funding that you're applying for. Then you have revenue funding, so running costs, salaries, that kind of thing. Capital funding, so help to pay with building costs or equipment. This is sort of long-lasting impact, physical things. And then project funding. So project funding pays for a mixture of items related to a specific project. There will usually be staff time included and management time, alongside everything that you need to deliver the project itself. So a lot of people sort of look to fund through that. You've then got core and long-term funding. So there are a few trusts who provide this kind of partnership over a number of years, and it's sustainable funding to keep, so you don't have to keep going back, that you can relax and rely on that one big pot. This is often offered by trusts who really believe in your organisation, or a trust that you've worked to get smaller pots with, that's seen you develop and then want to can fund you at that next level from the small grants. And then that kind of leads on to small grants, which is what trusts of all sizes have a small grants programme. It involves less paperwork, there's a faster response time, and it's often a good way to get to know a trust and establish that relationship so you can go on to that core funding. So carrying on of where to look for funds, we'll look at it on a local versus national level. So first, if you're looking at local, look at where you are. You might work with patients everywhere worldwide, but where are you registered? Where are your service users? Where is does most of your work take place? Because that will impact on the funding that you're looking for. Look at the area around you. Look at local supermarkets. Tesco's run the Bags of Help. I'm sure you've all seen the Blue Token scheme. There's certain areas where there's actually different. You can usually apply to Tesco's within your area, but some cities actually have multiple areas within that city. So you know, if you're working in Manchester, you could be eligible for Tesco's Bags of Help in different parts of Manchester. Greggs have community funds scheme local to their stores. So if you have a Greggs store that's near you, you can access that funding. So a lot of these, I must warn you, have stopped during COVID. They're actually focusing on a specific area, but it's good to get in touch with them, get in touch with the stores, particularly with Tesco's, find out who their community development worker is and make sure they know who you are, because then when they're back up and running again, they can, they're aware and they can let you know what's happening, and you can be on their radar. Then look at charities local to you. They don't have to be rare disease focused charities. Look at charities in your area, go on the Charities Commission website, see who they're accessing funds from. There might be funders in your area that you're just not aware of. And contact your local council. Again, this is something that can be a challenge at the moment. Everybody's from a lot of local council is furloughed, but it's good to find out who your community development officer or your charity link is within your local council. Find out about the community pots that they're offering, and again, if it's not something you can access now, get on their radar for when things start to get running again and you can access that from them. And leading on to that is local councillors. Local councillors have funding pots throughout the year that they can give to local charities. Again, we've just passed that financial year, but get in touch with your local MPs, find out who they are. If they get funding next year, if they've not given it to their specific organisations, they might email you and say, I have this, you know, I have some money left, do you need anything for your charity? So make sure you develop those relationships, it's really important. And your local volunteer centres, make sure they know who you are, make sure you're signed up with them. If they know about the funds that are out there, they can advise you, get a Zoom meeting in with them if they're still operating at the moment. If not, just try and get in touch as and when. And remember, you can access volunteers to support you with fundraising. So you could get a fundraising volunteer or someone doing admin. So it's good for you to be in touch with your local volunteer centres. This can really benefit your fundraising, or people to help you write bids. And again, the community foundation. So go on ukcommunityfoundations.org, find out where your UK community foundation is through typing in the postcode for your organisation. They've recently been funded by Garfield Weston for COVID-19 response work and supporting charities throughout the crisis. So this could be a really important step. They're offering money quickly to organisations that need it. So if I was going to advise anything right now, would be to get in touch with your community foundation. And then we come on to national funding. So covering a few of the big ones first. We spoke a bit before about the National Lottery Community Fund, but I'd like to give you an idea of the size of the money that they offer and what you could get. So last financial year, 2018 to 2019, they awarded 511.1 million to over 12,143 grants. And so these were working with people in the arts, health, sports, community, volunteering. So lots of different areas. They often provide small pots of money. In fact, 86% of what they offer is for 10,000 or less. So if you're looking for a little bit of funding, it's worth looking at their Awards for All scheme. And again, if they are being affected at the moment, they are doing a lot of COVID-19 specific response funding, but get to know your local representative, find out who they are, so that when the funding is back up and running in your area, that you can have access to that and see if the Awards for All scheme can support you. Then there's foundations like Henry Smith Foundation, Garfield Weston, that are also important funders. So they support not only with projects, but ongoing core costs and wages, management, your offices, your daily outputs as a charity. And they are both continuing to fund during COVID-19. So again, have a look at these, see if they're right for you and see if they're a good fit. They're quite long, tailor-made applications, but they are worth it if it's the right funding for you. So those are some of the big ones. For the rest, there's about 10,000 trusts out there and foundations. So obviously, how do you find the right one for you? One way of looking at it is funding search engines. So I've highlighted 3 of the most popular search engines that are available. So there's Funds Online, Funding Central and Grants Online, and I'll go through these now just to give you an idea of what might be the right one for you. So Funds Online has subscriptions of £360 for a year, and their data sets include trusts and corporate funders. So for those of you who answered to the poll that corporate funding was one of your avenues, this might be the right one for you. It's run by the Directory of Social Change. You can also access their book, which I don't know who can see me and who can't, but I do actually have a copy from a friend of mine, which is an 11th edition. There's now 26 of these, and they're basically like a big Bible of all the funding bids out there. So you can buy that for £125. Again, it could be the right resource for you. I found it useful. Have a little look. In normal circumstances, you would be able to go directly to the DSC headquarters and go to their bookshop and library and access that for free. Obviously, under current circumstances, that's not possible, so the online options are there, or you can order the book. Then there is Funding Central, which is run by NCVO. So this is free for organisations who have an annual income of less than 100,000 K. So if that is your income, then it's a no-brainer. Just sign up for it. You'll get it for free, and you can access that. If you earn over 100,000, then it's £120 for the subscription. So it's just weighing up compared to the other platforms, which one's best for you. And then another popular support is Grants Online. So again, they offer a free newsletter. So you can go on their website and type in your email, and they'll send you email updates of funds as they're coming out, what deadlines are coming up and what's new. So I definitely recommend signing up for that, accessing that as a free resource. I really personally like Grants Online. I like the information they give, the way they lay it out. So you'll find with the different platforms what one works for you. You can access Grants Online for free up to a certain point, so it's worth having a Google, having a look through the bids, but it will cut you off. So if you're finding it useful, the other great thing about this platform is that you can dip in and out, so you can actually pay for a month for £15. I think it's 3 months for £40. So you could try it out for a month, or if you've got a set period where you're like, right, I'm just applying for bids, you could sign up for just that period instead of getting a whole year's subscription. So that's an idea of how you can access them. And then here's an idea about how the platforms actually work. So we're looking at Funding Central here from NCVO. So if you can see the screen, it's looking at what you're looking to fund. You can search by a new project, an existing project, or general future funding. And then from there, it will take you through to other search options. So looking at funds in your location, looking at what kind of organisation you represent, how to describe yourself, who will benefit from your funding, and using these different searches to find the right fund for you. And you can look at keywords, which we'll go into in a little bit, about how to be a bit creative with your keywords. You can look at the value of the funds that you're looking for, search by deadline or funder. Obviously, there's 3 different platforms that I've discussed, but these gives you an idea of the type of information that will come from that. So here you have the list of after you've put your searches in, you'll get a list of bids come up. Again, it's worth bearing in mind, don't just type in your search criteria, get the list and assume they're the only funds out there for you. Go back, keep going back, change the amounts, change the deadlines, look at ones that have passed, because you might be able to bear them in mind for next year. Just keep going back and changing the criteria to make sure that you can, you're seeing what's out there. And now for research. So Google is definitely your friend. Definitely Google, you will find if you type in rare disease charity or rare disease funding, that will come up quite limited. So again, we're going to go into a bit about how you're using different keywords and looking at different things, but just research who you're applying for funding from. So look at a small number of well-researched, tailor-made applications are far more likely to succeed than a wide range of bids that are written identically. So make sure that you know what they're looking for, read the guidelines, don't waste your time, basically. It will all save you time in the long run. You are creating templates for future bids. You can use the same content, but you've got to make sure that content is relevant to the next bid that you're applying for. So it might seem like a lot of work to start with, but it will all help in the long run. And then so looking at trusts and foundations, they have websites. You can again go on the Charities Commission, type in the funder, look on their accounts, see who they've funded recently, go on their funding priorities on their websites, see if they're giving to particular organisations, look at the particular themes. They can fund everything from children and young people to community development to education and training. Just make sure you're aware of what they're looking for. And then it's about the grant size. So look at what amounts they're looking to fund, who will fund the amount that you need. It's better to apply to it can be better to apply to one big pot and get the funds that you need successfully than apply to loads of little pots. Only get 5 out of the 10 you applied for, and then limit the work that you're delivering, or have to change the work that you're delivering. So, if you need a certain amount, see if that big amount's out there first. Read where they fund. Going back to the amounts as well. Have a look on the Charities Commission, see what they're funding. They may say that they fund up to £10,000, but they're giving the majority of charities 5,000. Look at what they're giving to people, so you can be realistic about what you might get from them. You don't want to get turned down because it's a bit of a minefield, I'll be honest. But you've just doing your research will massively help. So read where they fund. A fund might look good in the criteria, but will only fund certain charities in certain places. So, for instance, Edith Murphy Trust might look great for the criteria for you, but actually, when you start looking into it, they only fund charities in Derby and Uganda. That happens quite a lot. Actually, they'll pick a random country somewhere that these great philanthropists want to give money to. So just make sure that the criteria and the location fit, because you could start putting in work and then realise that they're not actually funding in your area. So the focus will always be, if you think about it, as I said before, where you're registered, where most of your work takes place, and where your service users are located. So if the geographical area is a criteria. Check the duration. Some funds will have a time limit on when you can spend them, so make sure you know this and know the deadlines to applications. You don't want to sit down to do an application in June and find out that actually the deadline was May and you've spent 2 months doing an application that was ongoing. It's all about prioritising, and it's worth drawing up a short list. Start with a long list, narrow it down. Get each application will be tailored to that particular trust then, and you can take a bit of time to put it together and plan that time into your sort of funding schedule. Find the best fit between what you want to achieve and the aims and restrictions of the trust funding programme. Remember that some trusts are very small, they will only hold a meeting once a year. Some trusts review quarterly, some have a meeting once a month, but if you don't want to have to wait a year for a fund that you could have applied to if you just thought about the timings of it, if that makes sense. Again, Charity Commission, go to their accounts, see who they're funding, as I've said before, really important. Call them up if you can, ask them about the process, make sure you pick up the phone and communicate with them. Some are happy to chat through project ideas on the phone, others explicitly say they can't and they won't, but it's good that if you can, that that you've done that. It's worth investing the time to find out as much as possible about the trust, to make a strong case for why your project could be funded by them. If you don't call them, try emailing them. It's good for them to know who you are. Some of these trusts are very small. If you've rung up and had a really good chat with them, they will then see your application come through and really consider it because they've spoke to that lovely person on the phone that they had a great chat with. So again, it's all about developing those relationships, and getting all the advice that you need before you apply. They also may have changed their aims. This could work for you positively or negatively, but it's good to keep in touch because some of their websites can be outdated. So that leads me on to thinking outside of the box, so getting creative with your keywords, who you work with, what you do, why you do it. Think of everything that you do and how you represent it. So you might run a rare disease patient group, but who are your service users? They all may have a rare condition, but are they parents of children who have rare conditions? Could you apply for funding for children related to children under 5? Could you apply for young parents funding? Does your organisation run online events? Could you apply for digital funding? Where do you work? Do you work in Wales but have a large network of patients in London? Could you access funding in that area? Just be creative. Start with a mind map, put your charity in the middle, shoot out words left, right and centre of everything that represents your charity and what it does and everything you can think of, and use these within your searches. Don't be afraid of the budget. Ask for what you need. I know I said earlier it's best to go for a big bid, but don't stick to low bids if you feel you're more likely of getting them. Funders want to fund work that benefits communities, and basically don't sell your work short. Apply for what you need. If you can prove the need, apply for it. Don't try and fit in their box if you don't. Instinct and knowledge is a bit key to that. And this is why the research is so important. Don't try and fit in with a funder because the deadline is next week and they have a big pot. If it's not the right one for you, you'll have wasted loads of time when you could have been putting all that time towards a bid that is right for you. So it's, we're all small charities. None of us want to waste time or resources. It's a bit like that thing with a job interview. You're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. You've got to know that funder's right for you. Don't waste time for on that. There's 10,000 trusts out there. There'll be one, a better one that fits you better. So just hold off if you're not sure, or you believe you don't fit the criteria. Let your passion shine through. Obviously, we'll be going into applications more in the next 3 days, but even at this stage of the research, think about who you are, why you do it, use that in your keywords and your application, and just be, think about your passion, why you started, why you're doing what you're doing. And funding new projects. So many funders want new projects. So they might have funded you for a great project and they'll say, well done, the reporting was great and you did a really good job. And then actually now they want you to, they'll give you more money if you come up with something new. But I want to say new in sort of quotation marks. It doesn't mean you can't extend on the previous work that you've been funded for or delivered. Think about the development of your projects, using new funding to pilot ideas while still getting the funding for the core work that you do. So bear in mind that core costs always come into the projects that you run. So yeah. And finally, the COVID-19 emergency funds. So if you think about so we can't avoid it at the moment, it's everywhere and it's impacted fundraising in a massive way. And it's part of the reason we're running this workshop this week. So funders are looking at funding a lot of direct response work, and that's been impacted, charities that COVID's impacted throughout this time. Community foundations, as I said earlier, are playing a key part in this, and make sure that you contact yours and find out what they're offering and if it's applicable to you. The funds are being prioritised and the funding is coming through fast. So in many cases, if the need is there, you could get support sooner rather than later. So again, that's why I can't stress enough, get in touch with them. But also they're offering a lot of funding out there to support throughout this difficult time. So just because you're not doing immediate COVID-19 response work, I'd have a look through, see what funding you might be able to get just to stay afloat during what some are finding a difficult time for their organisation. I've put a couple of links on here. The first is Grants Online have a coronavirus specific page, so you can go on there and have a whiz through all the funds that are up and going at the moment to support throughout COVID-19. And also we have our own guidance at the bottom, which is our emergency funding handout, which has some really good links in it as well to support directly at this time. So yes, thank you for listening. I hope I've not gone on too much with too much information, and it's helped everybody. I will pass you on to Rick now so he can go through getting your work ready for funding applications.